welcome back to my channel. My name's Katie. In this video we're going to be doing our second out of 3 first impressions for the month. I'm missing highlighter and I'm missing a eyeliner for the waterline, but I have got everything else. We've got a lot of W7 products here. I thought I'd do another W7 haul. I've got their very vegan foundation to try out, which is one of the ones I wanted to get last year when I did my video trying like basically all of W7's foundations. This is one of the ones I couldn't get. So I thought I'd try it, and I've also got their Ultimate Cover Up Full Cover Face and Body Makeup, which I thought was a concealer when I bought it, but look at it, it's absolutely massive. I'm still going to use it as a concealer, but I think it could be used as a foundation. Obviously, I think it's meant to like cover tattoos and stuff like that as well. But I bought it for myself as a concealer. Also got the L'Oreal Bambi Mascara to try out and the Revolution Avocado eyeshadow palette. So let's just go ahead and get into this. The first thing that I do want to try out is this guy. So it's called the W7 Ultimate Cover Up Full Cover Face and Body Makeup. That's what it's called. I thought it was a concealer. I mean, I guess it can be used as a concealer. I think it's just like meant as a multi-use sort of product. I got mine in the shade 1. I think there's like about 8 shades, so it's obviously not a great shade range. When I swatched this before, I think it is actually quite light, which is good because sometimes the W7 base products don't go particularly pale, but it's pretty pale to be honest. Like, I think that's like a pretty pale colour, so I'm happy with the shade. So yeah, claims to be full coverage. I thought I would just test this out my eye area as I do with concealers normally in first impressions. I mean, I do kind of like that you get a massive bottle, because I think if you were using this to like cover tattoos or something, you'd probably need quite a lot of product. So I do actually think it is quite good that it comes in a big bottle, but obviously I'm used to concealers coming in like a little smaller bottle, so that's why I was a bit like, what the hell. I'm just gonna put a bit of this under my eyes and on my eyelid, and we'll see what the coverage is like. So my like testing New Revolution products, which should go up before this, they had a similar sort of concealer, like a full coverage one. So we'll see how it compares to that. Yeah, I think the shade's pretty decent. It's not any lighter than my skin, I don't think. It's just very like kind of similar to my skin, which is fine. The full coverage Revolution one definitely like is more like sticky. I feel like this one's a bit more like a regular sort of concealer foundation consistency. It's blending out a lot more kind of like seamlessly. Okay, so there's your side by side. I think that is some pretty damn good coverage. If I'm looking like really closely, I can see my veins like a tiny bit and a little bit of my bags, but really not a lot at all. I would say that's like a low full coverage in my opinion, which is pretty good. For me personally, I'm happy with that coverage. I think that's really nice. So yeah, let me just close my eyes so you can kind of see the veins side by side. Like, it's definitely like eradicated them for the most part. And under my eyes, I feel like it's compared. See that dark circle? Don't really see it on this side. I'm actually really impressed with that. And again, it's like not got that same sort of sticky, thick consistency that the Revolution full coverage concealer has. This one just feels a bit more like, even though it's really good coverage, it doesn't seem like super heavy, which is nice because I feel like normally the more coverage you have, the more it's just like thick on the skin. But I mean, it does obviously sit on my lines a bit. I find like all concealers do this. The more coverage normally, the more they do it. But on bare skin, I'm actually quite impressed with that. So we'll see how it works over the top of foundation. I mean, obviously I could probably use this as a foundation as well, and I probably will try that at some point while I'm testing this for updated makeup review. And first impressions, I like that. So I'm gonna just wipe it off under my eye. I'll use it on the other eye as well. I'm gonna prep my eyes for eyeshadow. As per usual, I'm gonna do one eye off camera and then repeat it on the other eye. So the eyeshadow palette that I've got is from Revolution. It's one of their newer ones. It's the Tasty Avocado Shadow Palette, and the packaging is like amazing. Like, it's sort of like a foamy sort of thing. I think it looks super cute. Like, I'm obsessed with that. I am a big fan of green. It is my favourite colour, so I did really like the look of this palette. I mean, just look at them. And there's been some pretty good swatches as well from when I've swatched it. This like vibrant yellow shade, I feel like I need to use that. This palette just looks absolutely stunning. Like, I want that on my eyes. I did also pick this up from W7. It's the W7 Disco Diamonds Duochrome Dazzler. It's in the shade Discotheque. Looks like this, holographic packaging. And this is what the colour is. It's sort of like a bluey kind of silvery colour. Let me just swatch it for you. Like, that's how it kind of comes out. I feel like it looks more silver than it does blue. I might try and incorporate this into the look somehow. So with that in mind, I'm going to go off camera and do one eye. Okay, so this is the eyeshadow we've made. I'm not like obsessed with it, but it will do. I started by using the shade called Guacamole, which is kind of like a light minty green sort of shade, and I started by putting that above the crease. I think considering it's quite like a pastel-y, like minty shade, I think it does show up pretty well because I often have trouble with those sorts of shades. Then I'm using the kind of deeper green called Avo, this one here, and that's also going in the crease area. Don't know if you can notice this, but like when I blend it, it does go like a little bit patchy, like the two colours together. Like I don't know if you can see, there's kind of like a line there where it's sort of like removing product. So I'm using the first shade and hopefully I can fix that patchiness. We'll see. So yeah, I think as you can see, like the colours are really pigmented, those two like matte shades, but I just feel like there is patchiness. I mean, you'd only really notice it if you got really close up to my eye, but it's definitely a bit irritating. Like I can just still see that line. It didn't do it as much in the other eye, but I did notice it did it a little bit, but I feel like it's come out a bit worse on this eye for some reason. So I'm gonna cut my crease. I'm gonna use the same W7 concealer. I'm just gonna call it concealer. And it's just like going all across the lid. So I started in the centre by using the matte limey colour. It's literally called Lime. I'm going to layer something over the top of it as well. I think for me the shimmers are like more of the standout from this palette than the mattes, if I'm being completely honest. I will play around with this some more obviously. The inner and the outer third, I'm using this shade called Smash, which is like a bluey silvery colour. It's really pretty. This one does show up really nicely. I like this one a lot. Like that shade is actually stunning. Then using this shade called Pear, which is like a sort of greeny goldy shade, and I'm layering that over the middle bit. That's so pretty. Look at it. Those two shimmer shades are really nice. So I then did use the W7 glitter thing, Disco Tech. I just put it over the top of these two bits, which I didn't really need to do. And I do find that these are a little bit cracky, if you get what I mean, but they are pretty. And I decided to get a pointed brush and use the gold shade called California, this one here, and I'm just kind of stamping that through the crease area. Okay, that definitely didn't happen on the other eye. I've just put that on and literally like eyeshadow above it has just disappeared. That did not happen on that eye. What is going the hell on? Okay, well, now there's like a nice line there. Shall we see if I can get that green back on? Is that gonna work? Like, what is going on here? I literally have no idea what the hell has gone on in this eye, but it's a disaster and I am cross. I don't know what I'm supposed to do to fix it. I'm really confused. What do I do? I'm using the shade called Creamy, which is like a sort of light pinky colour under the brow bone. This is just a disaster now at this point. So as you can tell, there is a bit of a difference. Let me get close up just in case you can't tell. So obviously this is the first eyeshadow, which looks okay. And there's just this weird line here and I just can't get it to blend. It's just a bit of a disaster. So I don't know why it's done it on one eye and not the other, but this eyeshadow is a bit of a disaster, I'm not gonna lie. Part of me wants to wipe it all off and do it again. I don't know. It doesn't look good. Okay, I need to think about this for a bit. So I'm just going to leave the eyeshadow like this. I'm not happy with it, but I can't be bothered to redo an eyeshadow look. So basically my thoughts on this palette is I'm not sold on the mattes. I think there's some blendability issues with the mattes, like they show up well, but blending wise, there's some problems I'm noticing, but I will give them plenty of other chances. The shimmers in this palette though, stunning, love the shimmers. The goldy shade I used, the like bluey silvery shade that I used, stunning. So shimmers yes, mattes not so sure about, is my first impressions on this guy. I definitely feel like the I Heart Revolution Sprinkles palette went a bit better when we tried this one out in our Testing Revolution video. So far that one is beating this one, but we'll play around with it more throughout the next couple months. So I did pop a little bit of eyeliner in my top and bottom waterlines. It was the Revlon So Fierce one. I didn't get any new eyeliners to try out, so that is why. But we're going to move on to mascara now, and I got the new L'Oreal Bambi Eye False Lash Mascara, which I'm really intrigued about when I saw it on Superdrug. I tend to have really good experiences with L'Oreal mascaras. They're like some of my favourites. So here's hoping that this is going to be another really good one. So let's just go in. I'm going to do my top lashes. And I hope that this is as good as the other L'Oreal mascaras. Like the Lash Paradise, the Infallible one. Okay, so that's the mascara one. I think it's pretty good. For the L'Oreal mascaras I've tried, this one's probably impressed me the least. I definitely feel like the other ones are better, but I still think that is pretty decent. It's definitely giving me some volume. It's come out better on this eye. It always comes out better on like one eye than the other. Like this one looks a lot more voluminous, but actually that looks pretty good. I still think it's a pretty decent mascara. That's definitely like giving me some lashes. I think it'll probably get a bit better the more I use it as well. So I am quite impressed with it. But I feel like I've been more wowed by other L'Oreal mascaras. Also like the Collection Lash Surge that I tried last month, I feel like it's a bit more impressive than this one. But I think it's a decent mascara. It's definitely above average. But I don't know, it's just not completely wowing me or anything. But I like it. I definitely like it. So we're going to move on to the base now. So I have got the W7 Very Vegan HD foundation to try out. I did want to try this last year when I did a video reviewing a load of W7 foundations. I think I tried about 6 or 7 in that video, but I couldn't get my hands on this one, and this one did have some good reviews. This is in the shade Bare Buff. I don't know if I'm going to need white mix for this or not, because they have a pretty terrible shade range. It's the colour there. To me it looks a little bit orange. I don't know whether to just use it on its own, just because I'm not going anywhere today, so I'm just going to use it on its own. It probably could use a white mixer, but I kind of just want to see what the formula is like by itself. So I'm just going in with a sponge. It's pretty much dry, and I'm just going to build this up with my face shade. Definitely, if I was to wear this out, I definitely would put a white mixer in, but we're just going to go with it today without one. I mean, considering what's happened with my eyeshadow, this makeup looks already a disaster, so doesn't really matter with the wrong colour. So I'm going to build it up a bit, but this is it with just one layer on. The colour is definitely quite off. I would say this is a very lightweight, very light coverage looking. I wouldn't say that it's particularly a high coverage foundation. It's very fresh, it's got a bit of dewiness to it, a bit of radiance to it. I feel like it does sit in my pores quite noticeably. I am like noticing that. And it's definitely not great coverage. It's very dewy and radiant. I'm just going to build it up a little bit, see if we can build up the coverage. I mean, we have got a full coverage concealer to use, so it's not really that big a deal, but I want to see what's the best I can get out of this. Okay, so it does build up a bit, but overall I still feel like it looks pretty light. I feel like at most I'd give it like a low medium coverage. It's just there's a lot I could still see coming through. It looks alright, but I just feel like when I look at it, the first thing I can like notice is my pores. Like I don't feel like it's done my pores like any favours. I don't know if I'm just having a really bad pore day. I think I am, to be fair, but I just feel like of all the foundations, I mean, quite a lot of my foundations do emphasise my pores, but I don't know, I just feel like this one's one of those. Like it's dewy and radiant, which is nice, and I think it would look a bit better if the colour was a bit better, so I need to see what it's like with white mixer. Very light coverage, that's what I'm going to say. If you like dewy, radiant, light coverage, then great. I'm not really sure how to feel about this. I I think it's just going to depend on how it wears for me. Obviously, I'm going to talk about all of these products in a updated makeup review, but I will put a little caption somewhere in this video just to let you know how this foundation wears, if it's up there with the other W7 foundations which wear really well. At least with this, we have got this concealer which I've already know has got pretty good coverage. Pop a bit under my eyes. This is also paler than the foundation, which is good. I'm going to use a bit of this under my eyes, on my nose, and around any blemishes on my face. So yeah, I think that that has really nice coverage. That concealer is sitting on the face fine. It's not looking really dry. It's not clung weirdly to any areas. It does sit on my lines a bit, all concealers do. I quite like the concealer actually, but I will have to keep trying it out. But from first impressions, I quite like it. Got a few setting powders from W7. So I got this one called the Micro Matte Fix Special Effects Flawless Face Powder in the shade Fair. For me, this was just a bit of a gamble. I had no idea if the shade was going to be light or what. And a gamble that did not pay off because it like looks super orange. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but as soon as I got it out, I was like, wow, that's like a really orangey, peachy coloured powder. I don't think that's going to work for me, so I'm going to put that aside. These next two are basically like white translucent though, so I can't go wrong with these. They're both from the W7 Set It Up Special Effects range. So I've got the loose finishing powder, and then I've got the pressed finishing powder. So basically the same thing, but one's loose, one's pressed. So I figured I'll use this one under my eyes and then this one on the rest of my face. They did have some good reviews, so I thought I'd give them a go. My skin kind of hates powder, just so you're aware. If you watch any of my videos, it does not like it. So we'll see if these powders can work miracles for me. Probably not. Okay, so I'm just going to tap a bit of the loose powder into the lid, and I'm going to use that under my eyes. I'll pat out the creases, and then I'm just using this sort of brush to just tap under my eyes. Right, let's see what happens. Okay, that's actually not looking too bad under the eyes at the moment. So we'll use the pressed powder to set down the rest of the face. Okay, I feel like this seems like the sort of powder that I might need to let settle onto my skin for a while. It's definitely mattified, and I feel like it has sort of blurred out my pores a bit, because as I was saying about foundation, I feel like it emphasised them. Whereas like now I've put this powder on, I feel like it's really like toned down my pore area and sort of blurred them out, which is nice. I can see it on my skin, it's quite noticeable that it's there. I actually think the under eye ones worked really well, like it hasn't separated like too badly. I'm actually impressed with the loose one. The pressed one, I think I need to let it sit on my skin because it's very tight feeling on the face. So I want to just let that settle for a little while before I give my full thoughts on it. But from first impressions, I'm not too upset with those powders. And I tend to be upset with most powders I try, so let it settle, let it settle. In the meantime, let's carry on. Okay, so let's move on to the cheeks. Now, this product is technically a setting powder. It's the Rimmel Lasting Radiance Finishing Powder. It's in the shade 01 Ivory. When I saw this online, to me, it just looked like a pale skin bronzer, so I bought it for that reason. So I'm hoping it's not too pale and that it will show up as a bronzer, but to me, I feel like that looks more bronzy than it looks like a setting powder for someone with ivory skin. Anyway, so I'm going to just pop this on my cheeks and my forehead. Hopefully it's dark enough that it'll show up. I mean, it's picked up a lot of product in there, so let's give it a go. I guess it would just be like a quite natural bronze, which is fine. That's what I like. I really like this. Like, it's so natural looking. Like, it does show up as a bronzer shade, so if you've got really fair skin, I would recommend this. But like, it's so like natural looking that I don't even feel like I need to blend it out, but it has added like warmth to my face, but it's just like a very subtle amount of warmth. I personally really like it. It's just gonna depend on what you're after. If you want a more intense looking bronzer, then maybe not, but for me, I think this looks really nice. It's just like a really nice little bit of light warmth from the face. I like that. So as I said, I don't have a highlighter to use, so I need to just grab something. I'm going to use the highlighter from the Revolution Pro Sculpt and Glow palette. So next I've got some W7 eyebrow products to try out. So I've got the W7 Brush on Brows Life Proof Brow Gel in the shade Dark Brown. It does come with a little spoolie. It is one of these types of gels, which I tried quite a few of recently. Most recent one I've tried is the L'Oreal Unbeliever Brow, but yeah, it's got like a doe foot. And then I also got a brow pencil. This is the W7 Stroke of Genius Micro Blade Brow Pencil, also in dark brown. I really love micro brow pencils. That's what it looks like there. And it's obviously got the spoolie on the other end. So what I do with gels like this is, well, first of all, I'm going to brush through my brows, so just a clear gel. I then get a angled brush like this and just dip it on the doe foot. Wipe off any excess on the back of my hand. The colour is just a very like rich looking, like chocolatey sort of colour. It should work for me. And then I just paint them on basically. So I've tried the L'Oreal Unbeliever Brow, the Collection Fast Brow, which is now called the Incredibrow, and also a Technic one in this format. So I've tried quite a lot of them recently. So this is another one to add to the collection. Like I quite like the format. It is a bit more time consuming than just like, you know, a standard gel where it's just got a spoolie attached to the lid. But I don't mind if it's a good product. Okay, so I do like it, but I feel like I like the other ones that I've tried more, like the L'Oreal and the Collection ones. They're just a bit more kind of like easier to work with. This one I feel like was quite time consuming, and it like the product was a bit kind of stiffer to move around, if that makes sense. But I feel like we got a good result in the end. I do, however, want to define it more with the Stroke of Genius Brow Pencil. So hopefully this will give us a bit more structure and definition. Okay, I think I really like the pencil. That's definitely given my brows some more structure. Yeah, I think the pencil is quite good from first impression. I think the gel's like decent as well. I don't hate it. It's just maybe not the best in that sort of format that I've used, but I think it's fine. Like, I think overall my brows look pretty decent. Like, they're not too harsh, they're not too blocky, so I'm happy with those. So we'll finish off the lower lash line, and I just have to say that the powder hasn't separated my concealer under my eyes, which is very rare for me to find right now, so I'm actually quite impressed with the loose setting powder. I do feel like as it has settled on my face, it's looking a little bit less cakey, and I do still think it's blurred out my pores really well, which I'm impressed with, but it's just like, I can tell there's a powder on my face. Like, it's not, it does have a pretty like sort of flawless finish. It's just not undetectable. Like, I feel like I'd be obsessed with these powders if they looked a bit more undetectable on the skin. So that's the only kind of downside. It doesn't feel as tight now that I've let it sit as well. But I do have to say they are some of the best ones I've found recently, because I struggle to find good powders. Anyway, let's finish off the lower lash line. I might just do a bit of a shimmer under the eyes instead of using any of the mattes, because the mattes are not really doing it for me right now. I think I'll go in with the greeny shade called Smoothie. It's a greeny shimmer. I'm going to just use this smudgy brush and try and place that under the lower lash line. Look how stunning that shade is that I put on my lower lash line. Like, that's so nice, and that's applied with a brush, which is normally less pigmentation with a brush. I'm going to use the light silvery bluey colour called Brunch. I'm going to see if that works in the inner corner. Again, look at that in the inner corner. That is stunning. I'm going to add some more of the L'Oreal Bambi Mascara. The last thing I've got to try out is a lipstick. This is the W7 Lippy Chic Ultra Creme lipstick. It's in the shade Banter. That just feels... I like calling a lipstick Lippy Chic and then the shade being called Banter. It just doesn't flow. It's a very sort of like pinky nude sort of shade. It looks pretty. So I'm just going to apply this to my lips. Okay, that's very opaque, very pretty. I like the colour. It's definitely more of a slippy sort of formula. It's like definitely not matte at all. Like it's quite, I don't know, it just feel like it's slippy to apply. Like it glides on really like slick. It's nice though, I like it, but I feel like I would prefer a more matte formula personally. Like I feel like this just wouldn't last long because it is so like kind of almost has like a glossy sort of finish. But it's nice enough. I like the colour. I'm just going to sort my hair out. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back with the finished look. So I'll just run through all of my thoughts on the products. So for standout products that I've really liked, first of all, both of the setting powders I feel like have pleasantly surprised me, considering they're both very like cheap makeup products. Like I actually think they've looked really nice on the skin. Like they've really like blurred out my pores. The loose one didn't separate my under eye makeup, which tends to happen all the time. The only kind of downside is that they are kind of like, as I've said earlier, they're not undetectable in the face. I could kind of see like a bit of like powderiness to them, but I don't think that they look bad at all, really. Both the eyebrow products I think worked well. I prefer the micro brow pencil, but I do think the gel's pretty decent as well. Just not the best that I've tried in that format. I think that this Rimmel bronzer, even though it's technically a setting powder, has worked really nice. It's just a very natural bit of glow, which I really like. I think if you've got pale skin, especially if it's lighter than mine, I think you'd really like this as a bronzer just because it's very natural looking. But I mean, if you want something more intense from your bronzers, then no. Maybe one of the deeper shades could possibly work for that. But sort of thing I'd pop on if I didn't want a really intense like bronzer, but I just wanted like a bit of something. I quite like this concealer from First Use. I think the shade's pretty decent. The coverage is really nice, and it doesn't look too bad on the skin. There's nothing bad about the finish, so I'm quite happy about this. I try it out as a foundation at some point, we'll see. I like the mascara, but it's not my favourite L'Oreal one. Like I think it's done some nice stuff for my lashes, but it's not the best one that I've found recently. As for products I'm not so sure about, the eyeshadow palette, I think that the shimmers have showed up really nicely, but there was just some patchiness with the mattes. So I'm gonna have to keep playing around with it, but so like half of this palette, really good, like the other half, maybe not so much, but again, I've only tried like about like 6 shades from this, so I've got plenty more to play around with. But I'm not happy with this eyeshadow look, no. I'm not really sure about the foundation right now. I'll have to see how it wears. I'll have to mix it with things, but from first impressions, like it's a bit lighter coverage than what I'm personally looking for, and I just feel like it sat on my texture quite a lot. I just feel like when I looked at my skin, it was the first thing I could see was like my pores, and then I think that just goes to show how good that powder was, because now I'm not even noticing my pores at all because it's proper just blurred them out. I feel like a lot of powders claim to blur your pores out, and I've never really noticed them doing it, but I feel like that one actually has, which is part of the reason why I'm so impressed with those powders. Like my pores just look so minimized now. It's madness. So I guess if I were to use this again, I'd probably use it with the same powders to kind of fix the pore problem that I feel like this has. But if you want something light coverage that's very radiant and dewy, I think like this could be a good option, especially if it wears like the other W7 foundations do, which is very well generally. But yeah, I'll put a little caption for when I obviously will have tested it for a day before this video goes up, hopefully. But obviously any updated thoughts are going to be in my August-September makeup recap. I think we found some decent products here. Little sneak peek for next first impressions. We've got Maybelline Tattoo Liner. I've got the Topshop foundation and concealer. I've got the Gosh Catchy Eyes mascara. I've got the Turkish Delight palette from I Heart Revolution, and some other products. Anyway, I've had some fun playing with some makeup today, but that is all. So I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.